Okay, we are set to begin. I'm going to let everyone in now. Very well, everyone's in. We can now begin. And welcome, everyone. I will be speaking in English to introduce Dr. Fantinuoli. But of course, you can use the interpretation service that we have both in Spanish and in French. Welcome to this second session of the third day of our translation week, and may I wish you all a very happy translation day. Congratulations, everyone, for practicing and being part of the most beautiful profession in the world, in my opinion. Today, we have a very special speaker with us. We are very grateful at the CMLTI to have him with us because he brings with him basically the state of the art in terms of technology for interpretation. Now, to talk about simultaneous interpretation is to talk about technology. We must talk about technology since that very first patent all the way to now with Interpret Bank and platforms like Kudo and Interprefy and others. There has always been a very close link between simultaneous interpretation and technology, and that is the topic of this presentation today. Dr. Claudio Fantinuoli, thank you very much for being with us. Let me just read a little bit of your summary so people who don't know you get to know you a little bit. Dr. Claudio Fantinuoli is a senior lecturer and researcher at the University of Mainz in Germersheim. He holds a Master of Arts in Conference Interpreting from the University of Bologna-Forlì. After several years as a freelance conference interpreter, a lecturer at the Innsbruck University, as well as at the Karlshochschule International University, he joined the University of Mainz, Germersheim, where he received a PhD in applied linguistics in the year 2012. Claudio's current research focuses on the study of machine interpreting from a communicative perspective. He teaches language technologies and practical classes in translation and consecutive and simultaneous interpreting. His research is interested in multilingual communication and the diverse approach to speech translation between humans and machines, as well as how new technologies, especially AI, can support human interpreters. To gain insights into these questions, he develops and studies computational systems to automatically translate speeches or to assist interpreters in doing so. The ultimate goal of Claudio's research is to empower human interpreters and their activity and to bring about a more precise characterization of what is unique in human interpretation. He is also the creator behind Interpret Bank, and he has been recently appointed head or chief of research at Kudo. Welcome, Dr. Claudio Fantinuoli, and happy Translation Day.
Buenos días. Muchas gracias for the invitation. That's all in my Spanish.
The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the presentation. Actually, you already said a couple of things I wanted to begin with in my presentation, because I will talk about several aspects of technology in the area of interpretation, and also about some aspects that have to do with machine interpretation and so on. So I like to stress my background just to show you the perspective I'm looking at interpretation. I share with you my PowerPoint. I think it's possible. So
you just have to share your screen. That's right.
Yeah. So you can see now the PowerPoint presentation. So my background comes from interpreting. I studied conference interpreting. I practiced conference interpreting for many years, but I always had the passion for technology, especially for coding, really coding, and for natural language processing, and then my passion about mind and brain and language. So my perspective tries to unify, if you want, the world of interpreting and the world of technology. And there are often words that don't communicate very well. There are a lot of misinterpretation, misconceptions. So my approach is broad: technology and real life interpretation. And today I would like to speak about the role of artificial intelligence depending how you want to put it, the world of interpreting. And I would like to start, how does my PowerPoint goes on? Well, let's wait. Technology is not always my friend, even if I work with technology. So now my screen shared with you. Okay. And I would like to start with what I defined some years ago now, this technological term in interpreting. It was 3, 4, 5 years ago, I remember very well, a time where technology in interpreting was not so present as today. And at that time, I say that the interpreting community would have changed, would be profoundly changed at some point in the near future, in the way it operates, in the way it defines itself, and so on, by what was happening in technology and in society as a whole. And I said very clearly that it was necessary for interpreters, for the interpreting community, to understand, first of all, this change and to govern it in some way, to adapt to the change that was happening, because this change driven by technology was not possible to be stopped. Even if you don't like it, it was not possible to be stopped. This had nothing to do with interpreting, it has to do with all parts of our life. But it was needed to understand the topic of change by technology, govern it, and actively assist the community to adapt to this change in order, on one side, to mitigate possible risks, but also to take advantage of this change. You know, every change has risks and opportunities. And at that time, it was at least my perception, the interpreting community was just saying, we lived with a very small amount of technology, of course, simultaneous interpreting in the way it is performed now, it was technology based, but it was just a little part of interpreting. And my idea was that this is not gonna happen or stay like this for too long. Now it is quite obvious that we had a paradigmatic change, and that technology is part of the interpreting profession. So let's start by defining what are the technologies that are nowadays, at the moment, the state of the art, the part of the today of interpreting. This is just the beginning to frame a little bit the relationship between technology and interpreting, and then I will move on to tell you what is my opinion, at least, what is going to happen in the next couple of years. Again, my goal is just to enforce this principle of understanding and help to not to react to changes, but to actively govern the changes for the good of the profession of all interpreters. So nowadays there are three areas, three technologies that are central in interpreting, and they have different levels of importance for the moment. Of course, we have remote interpreting. I didn't know there are more than several interpreters working now, probably in more difficult conditions than in an on-site assignment, but it's a fact that remote interpreting has become part of the new reality. Actually, I don't have very much to say about the remote interpreting. This is a topic that has been on heavy rotation for months because of the COVID. And if it was a topic that in the past was seen a little bit with skepticism from the interpreting community, for the conference interpreting community, nowadays, we all know that it is here to stay, not to replace on-site interpreting, but of course, as soon as something changes, this change cannot be removed from reality. It will be, as soon as the pandemic goes away, part of interpreting. As there is several modalities of interpreting, it's obvious that remote interpreting is here to stay. Again, not many things to say from my side about remote interpreting, just a couple of points. It is something which is not new. Even conference interpreters have been doing remote interpreting, simultaneous remote interpreting for years. It was just a marginal part of interpreting. Think about television interpreting. I worked several times, for example, outside a stadium, in a van, just with a monitor in front of me, interpreting football players that were inside the stadium. That was simultaneous remote interpreting, remote simultaneous interpreting. Or let's think about, as I said before, TV interpreting when a president, Trump, yesterday night, was speaking. There was Trump, Biden on TV, and most of countries had this TV show, let's call it, online, most of the time with simultaneous interpretation. They were not, I don't know where it was, this TV event, but they were in Italy, Mexico, and so on. This was already normal many years ago. Of course, now the situation is different. became more normal than before. But this is important to know that it's nothing new. Um, as far as remote interpreting is concerned, we will see that in the next years we will have two kinds of interpreting settings, which is one is the platforms. We see here Kudo, which I'm part of. We see also a competitor Interpretify and others. Then we will have on the lower part of the screen the famous hubs. So places like offices where you can go interpret. And of course, we will still have the normal on-site interpreting. Again, this is gonna stay. Of course, this has nothing to do with interpreting. The technology will improve. It's improving very fast and will improve even more in the next years. This is just quite obvious to say. But let's move to other aspects of technology and interpreting. An area which I dedicated many years in the past was computer-assisted interpreting, which is still quite new for many of us. The idea is just to have digital devices that support interpreters. And this is a reality. We see here digital, where the image is not really from an interpreting assignment, but we see a lot of people taking notes for consecutive interpreting tablets and all digital devices. Or in a more complex environment, we use softwares. In this case, software I'm the founder of Interpret Bank, to prepare conferences or assignments, which are in many cases very specific, with the support of computer, create glossaries in this case, take texts and extract terminology. This is something which is quite common. I know very well. It's quite common to be used. It's not very popular. I mean, in the sense that not all interpreters know about the possibility to use softwares to improve some part of the workflow of interpreting. And this changes a lot between countries. I'm involved in the project of Interpret Bank, which was actually my PhD at the time, was a research project and became a commercial product. And for example, in Europe, it's quite popular. Many institutions use it. In Japan, it's very popular. And in South America or Middle America, not very much. In South America, in some countries, Brazil and so on, it's at the moment quite popular. And the question why it is popular in some countries and in some others, no, it's just because many people, it's new, and many people don't know about this possibility. Don't know how can a computer, not a computer, but specific software support me in interpreting. I have a couple of short videos to show you just what, in this case, Interpret Bank, I have to say there are only 3 piece of software at the moment that can support interpreters in this way. The most advanced, not because it's mine or was developed by myself, but because it had a very strong tie with research at the universities, of course, Interpret Bank, but there is also Interpreters Help, which is a cloud-based solution for managing glossaries, or a very old software which is called Interplex. Interpret Bank is the most advanced because it starts to put here inside the software advanced technologies. Let's have a look at a couple of short videos. For example, here, I hope the video will start soon. Yes, you will see why you create a glossary. It's a glossary Italian English. You can get suggestions from the software, telling the human interpreter, the intelligent part of the process, how you can translate the words, interpret the signs, if a translation, a suggestion is good or not, and translate it, and add the translation to the glossary. So a way to improve the speed and the quality of creating glossaries. We're talking about specific topics. Where if you're talking about a very general topic, you're very knowledgeable about languages and so on, you don't need it. But when you're going into specific topics, of course, it's normal practice to create glossaries. Or let's see another example of what is possible now. I'm talking just about what is possible today. You have a new client, you have to interpret. For example, in this example is SpaceX. Maybe you know Elon Musk project to bring people to Mars and so on. You have to interpret a convention or whatever, and you don't have any idea about the topic. You don't have any glossary, any material. So you say, simply you tell the tool collect terminology about this topic, and the tool does it for you. Let's see a short video. I hope the quality of the video is good enough to see what's happening. So now I just give the web page of SpaceX on SpaceX.com, say I need it in English. Then the software collects, does things which have nothing to do with artificial intelligence, just collecting information from Elon Musk's web page. Does it a couple of seconds, then it says, okay, done. And now that I've collected text, I say, please tell me the most important terminology of this this client. And then in just a couple of seconds, you get a list of terms, complex terms, and then you do the same as before. You try to find translation for the given terms that are interesting for you. So it, again, speeds up a lot the process of collecting terminology, which is quite a fascinating topic. We heard before, translation and interpreting is a fantastic job. One of the reasons is because you have to deal with new topics and new subjects and learn. But you know very well that the process of collecting terminology, collecting documents is quite long. Software nowadays can help you to concentrate on learning, on understanding the terms, how they are used by the clients and so on, and not on creating the glossary. It's like you have a very good colleague of yours, you're going to interpret with him in the booth if you're a conference interpreter, and he or she gives you a ready-made glossary and you just start studying it, understanding the subject. This is the idea, not supporting. And if you go into the booth, you have your glossary. In this case is English and Arabic, for example. You go in the booth, or if you work as an interpreter in a dialogic modalities, community interpreters, always the same, often nowadays also in remote setting. You have your computer and you have to interpret very specific topic. We know very well that we have many ways to solve terminology problems while we are interpreting. We have a lot of strategies, we have learned them, we apply them, but sometimes you really need the proper term. And so we can look up in a very intelligent way terminology even while we are interpreting. Don't get me wrong, it doesn't mean I start typing all the time while I'm interpreting. This is not possible. But there are breaks, pauses, moments where it's not very difficult to interpret because I'm speaking, as I think now, I hope the interpreters will agree, very slowly, so it's not that difficult to interpret, and I have cognitive capacities to do some searches, and I can do them. in some cases. And just a short video how to look up words while I am interpreting. In the booth, I just enter a couple of words and the software just show me the translation into Arabic for that word. So this is something we are doing now. It's normal. You can download the softwares, try them, see if it are helpful for you or not. Let's see a third area of technology right now in the area of interpreting. And this is a topic that normally we don't like, which is speech-to-speech translation, speech-to-text translation, machine interpreting. We can call it as we want. The good news for professionals interpreters is that nowadays we have gadgets. We can buy them. This is Amazon. We can download apps on our iPhone or Android and use them. But they are, honestly speaking, not used at the moment in professional settings. We're not interpreters for casual meetings. You are professional interpreters. So in professional settings, at the moment, they don't have any role. So they are not important. But it is important to know that some forms of speech-to-speech translation is already there. You can use it when you are in China and you want to order something. They work pretty well. But no, at the moment, no in the area of professional translation. This is very important. So this is the manifestation of what I call the technological term. But to be a real term, in this case technological term, we need that it is a disruption. Everybody knows the word disruption. If a technology is a disruption, then we can talk about term. Then it means the profession, in our case, changes. If it's not a disruption, the disruptive technology, if it's not a disruptive innovation, a profession or an activity doesn't change. So I said we are in a technological term in interpreting because there is a disruption. There are disruptive technologies. Is it true? I don't know. I will show you if it discuss with you if it's we are in the process of disruption or not in interpreting. What does it mean, disruption? We hear the word every day, but we don't know in many cases what does it mean. We have disruption when the following happens. This is economics, actually. So we have new companies developing something, and this company target overlooked segments of the market, so things that nobody cared about. These companies start to deliver service normally at the very beginning at a lower price. It is a segment that is not interested in the market. The established entities, the established companies at the beginning don't respond at all. They say, it doesn't interest us. At some moment, the entrants, the new companies, startups, if you want, move up market and start to deliver a service or product to the established companies' clients. This point, the established companies, so on, the mainstream, if you want, start adopting the new technology, the new approach, whatever you want. It is at this moment that we have a disruption because, as you can see, even the mainstream changes. So the idea is, are we interpreting in the phase of a disruption, yes or no? If no, we keep on doing as always. If yes, then we have to think about how to adapt, as I said at the beginning. I spoke about 3 technologies. Let's take the easiest one, which is remote interpreting. In the case of conference, remote simultaneous interpreting. We have entrants, which are the RSI providers. And on the other side, we have the established companies, which are in my game now, not the companies, but it's milieu, if you want. They are the TERPs, interpreters, the event organizers, the established way to do something. Now, what happened? I think it's quite clear. In the past, new startups came on the market with the idea we offer remote simultaneous interpreting. They started to work for segments where normal interpreters at the very beginning didn't care about, very cheap, and so on. At some point, they grew, the world situation changed, big help for them. And now you have the big players, the institutions, everyone adapting. Also, I say again, remote is part of the broader picture, adapting, making this technology their own. It means we are in the process of a disruption. And if we are in the process of a disruption, in the area of remote simultaneous interpreting, very easy to see, then you, the profession, has to react. You cannot say, no, I don't do it. Yeah, somebody will probably say it. Somebody will just work on site, say the other stuff doesn't interest me at all. But if you want to succeed, you have to adapt to a new situation, which is not something which is negative. You have to adapt, lower rates. No, it depends. Everything is new, and you have proactively to adapt to a disruption. What is happening? This is now. So I'm not telling you nothing new. If you observe in the world, this is what's happening. But I would like to tell you what's going to happen in the next couple of years. Just to give you the tools, if you want, if you believe in what I say, to be prepared and be the first, maybe to adapt and turn the change into your opportunity. What are the new trends? In my opinion, not many. There are not many new trends in interpreting. I keep it very easy. For the next 3-5 years, I have no ideas in 20 years, of course, but for the next 3-5 years. Well, if everything I said before is true, then we will keep on having more and more technology in interpreting. Remote interpretation, augmented interpreters, so interpreters supported by technology, and so on. I think this has nothing to do with interpreting. This is, if we like it or not, part of our society, of the Western society. So there will not be less technology, there will be more technology in interpreting. I'm afraid to say you will assist in a very near future, 3-5 years, to the emergence of machine interpreting, also in professional contexts. Before, I say it was not in professional contexts, but you will see this also in professional contexts. Just not to worry you, This will bring a lot of opportunities if you react in the right way. I will talk about this, but remember this, you will see machine interpreting professional context. What does it mean in professional context? It doesn't mean replacing interpreters, but in the 3-5 years, for sure not, but for sure in professional context conferences where normally probably there would be no interpretation, you will have machine interpreting as an accessibility tool. Third trend will be that the three technologies I was speaking about, remote interpreting, computer-assisted interpreting, and machine interpreting, will merge. It means you will have remote interpreting with computer-assisted interpreting. You will have remote meetings, low-quality meetings for as far as the language is concerned, also with machine interpreting. 3-5 years. And which is the technology, or the area, it's not a technology, which plays a very important role in this, is artificial intelligence. So let me give you a couple of information about artificial intelligence. I will try to be very short to give you more time, some time for questions. When we think about artificial intelligence, most people think about HAL 9000 from 2001 Space Odyssey, a computer with an eye talking to the crew, or you think about the Terminator, so man, or not a man, an entity, but with a body this time, that wants to destroy humans. Or you think about the beautiful film Blade Runner from Ridley Scott, where humans created entities like humans to work outer space. At some point, they become conscious of their state, of their death, and want to escape it. Or like in Ex Machina, very beautiful film, we have a person who creates an entity, and this entity needs to prove to a person to be human. The famous, very famous Turing test and so on, the imitation game, where an entity, you can't decide if an entity is real or not. This is science fiction. I'm not saying it will not happen. I have no idea. I really have no idea. But when we hear the word artificial intelligence, we shouldn't think about such things. We should think about something which is more down to earth, which is artificial intelligence, a science. Chomsky would say it's not a science, it's engineering, but no matter how we define it, where we create computers that solve tasks. And they do it in a somewhat autonomous way. And they do this task would normally require some form, I stress, some form of intelligence. This definition is very important. This is very important because our perception of artificial intelligence is very often wrong. Intelligence means solving tasks, and animals solve tasks. Plants solve tasks. The roots point to water, so why not a machine? So intelligence is just solving tasks. Doing it autonomously means, you know, you have heard the word machine learning, deep learning, that they are not programmed to do it. They're just an empty device. You present examples of something and they learn from it. So they learn a little bit like children from experience in a very basic way. But this is quite important that you understand. You don't program something, you expose a computer to the world, and the computer decides, learns something. Let's go into natural language processing, which is part of what we do. And take the task of entity recognition. Entity recognition is a task where you have a text and you automatically find words in the text that are names, products, and so on. In the past, you would just use a database with a list of city names. But this is problem. It has a lot of issues. Your database must be complete, must have everything, and no database has everything. And then there is ambiguity. You know, the word Jobs can be a person, Steve Jobs, or a noun, plural noun. So in one case, is a noun. In another case, it is not. The revolution in machine learning, artificial intelligence, machine learning, just a part of artificial intelligence, is that you show example, you train a model, and you create it, and at this moment, you have, like in the slide down here, a computer that without telling him, I think it's a bit small, Facebook is an organization, it learns from itself that Facebook is an organization. This is the key idea. And where will you find, we find artificial intelligence? We will find it, as I said before, as a support for professional interpreters. So we have preparation. So artificial intelligence, natural language processing will help you to automatically, fully automatically create glossaries, find documents for you to study, to prepare, summarize the documents, and so on. Cooperate, help you cooperate with your colleagues using this methodology of machine learning. Or you will have machine learning tools while you are interpreting. So real-time assistance. I show you a short, very short video. I don't know if the audio will work. Let's hope. Wait, I have to change here technology. So you are in the booth. Mr. Draghi, who is the former European Central Bank president, speaks, and the software listens.
The euro area economy has now been growing for 5 years, and we expect the expansion to continue in the coming years. We've recently seen a loss of growth momentum. In both of the last 2 quarterly ECB growth projections, our staff has revised down its estimates. Actual data have also been weak. The flash estimate for euro area growth in the first quarter was just 0.2%. The slow.
Okay, so you are. Oops.
The euro area economy has not.
So you are interpreting. The computer listens to the speaker and suggests you terminology. In this case, was English, German, and numbers, which are very quite an issue for simultaneous interpreters. And this is artificial intelligence at work. So real-time assistance. I don't go into details about research in this area, there are a lot of the research in this area, and it's quite promising. Not only from the technological side, but from the performance. So interpreters improve the quality of the interpretation. Then we have other areas, post-assistance, organization. So many areas of interpreting where artificial intelligence will be part of the game. And again, we have machine interpreting. Please remember this and then coming to an end. Already now, the European Parliament here in Europe is introducing, in a long process, will last a couple of years, a system for subtitling, captioning the meetings in real time in several languages. The quality will be probably not very good at the very beginning. The interpreters will still work, but it will offer accessibility to people. And of course, machine interpreting, for you, it's a good news, poses a lot of challenges, especially because spoken language is much more complicated to be processed by a computer than written language. If you want written language, which is not a natural phenomenon, it's a cultural phenomenon, written language, is already a process of translation from your thoughts into something which is really good formalized. And this is very good for computer. That's the reason why written machine translation doesn't replace translators, professional translators, but performs in some domains, in some areas, astonishingly well. In spoken language, there are so many other on top of these problems. Think about accents. Speak about the fact that we don't speak in a linear way. We interrupt ourselves. We correct ourselves while we're speaking. And these are problems for a computer. Or think about that speech is embedded in a moment. While I'm speaking, I'm referring to things that are happening right now in a text. No, it's more or less atemporal. So many challenges. I will come to an end, but just to give you the idea that there are two approaches to machine interpreting. The first is we have a speaker, we do speech recognition, we have a text, a written text, we do machine translation, we have a target text, and if we want, we produce a voice in the target language. This is the process which is used at the moment. The quality is not very perfect. In some areas, it's improving quite fast. There are many possibility of errors because every white box is a model, language model, can make error, and the error comes, propagates itself. But I want to tell you that there is another approach in research which is quite interesting. It is to learn not to translate, not speech recognition and so on, but to take audio and train a model with a target audio, with an interpretation, for example, and let the model translate in a direct way from one language to the next one. This is research at the moment, but what is research now could come to some products in the near future. Here you see the way our technology evolves. Machine translation, please note this, is at the very beginning, lower end. We are in the first phase of developing such things, but as any technology, it will improve, then it will go back, no improvement, no interest, then new development will be used, another improvement, and it will improve no matter. I don't know how far it will go, but it will improve. So you have to consider this as something which will happen at some point. Not a perfect interpretation, but something which will be usable. Okay, research, we can jump it and come to an end and say that the technological turn in interpreting means a radical change in the landscape of interpreting. And this has consequences for you now. There are hard facts, the change in the profession. Rates may be affected, your daily routine, the way to work, the way to work with other people. All these three technologies, especially the last one, will change the perception of the general public on what you do. Not in a bad way, not in a bad way. I'm quite optimistic that the perception, there will be a part of people will say, why? As many know you're a translator, but there is not Google Translate. The same will happen to interpreters. You're an interpreter, there is not Google Interpreter or something different. But on the other side, people that appreciate your work will appreciate even more. Aha, yeah, I see, yeah, Google Translate works well. But for my translation work, I need something different, something better that a professional can deliver. And if you believe in this technological turn, there is a need for you to reposition yourself on the market, to present your skills, your professionality in a different way than in the past. In the past, interpreters were very keen on saying, we are good if nobody notices us. Nowadays, I would tell you that it is good if you are more present in the process of communication, if there is more interaction, if you make a difference from computers, they will come. So again, disruptive times, difficult times. You know, this is a disruption with remote interpreting, but they always, in any part of life, hide opportunities. And knowing about what's happening and knowing what will happen in the next years will be a key for you to succeed. And there is a lot of hope that the profession will thrive in the next years, but has to adapt and not to be behind and try to adapt too late to changes, but be the drive of change. Thank you very much. I think your mic is...
Sorry, yes. Thank you very much, Dr. Fantinuoli. This presentation was a complete journey, an emotional journey, I have to say. This topic, of course, is very fascinating. The videos that you showed us are simply fantastic. These functionalities that Interpret Bank has are a true testament of the progress of the human mind, and they're fascinating. And I was personally going to make a bad joke about interpreters being now a sort of RoboCop with all these functionalities. But then, of course, it can also be taken as a tough pill to swallow because of the possible connotations or repercussions to our profession. But luckily, you closed with a very positive message, and a very nice message. I would have to agree. While technology might change things, it also provokes innovation and change, positive change. So I hope that our audience doesn't jump off bridges because of the future that we still don't know how it's going to be like. If people have questions, brief questions, we don't have a lot of time. There's actually a comment from Anna who says, thank you. Is it your opinion that AI will improve and eventually be able to replace human interpreters completely? Or is there an exclusively human characteristic to interpreting?
This is a very difficult question. AI will improve, there is no doubt. I think it depends what we understand under interpreting. There will be, as I said before, areas where AI will suffice, will be enough for doing the job. But there will be many other areas where interpreters, especially the interpreter which is not behind the scenes, which is part, really active part of the communication, that will be there for many years to come. So I'm really not pessimistic, really not pessimistic. And there is a lot of the way towards a very good machine interpretation is very, very long. Huh? But even when we will have a very good interpretation, it's, as you, if you want, will be the difference between, even now, human interpreter, which is not very good. We have many human interpreters, they are not very good, and the human interpreter who is very good. This difference will be there for many years. So what you have to do is to be a good interpreter.
Indeed, I agree. And as you mentioned, it would also create the opportunity to be acknowledged as a good interpreter, or people will appreciate human services more in the meantime. We have time for just one more question. This last question, what do you think of the hybrid interpretation, humans and machines interpretation? Is or will there be a good solution?
I have no idea because I don't know what hybrid interpretation is. If you mean hybrid interpretation, humans that are supported by machines, yes, of course, we have already proved. We will do a very large experiment at the European Union, me and my colleague Bart de Frank, with this prompt you have seen there, to see how really top-level interpreters will react in terms of quality to prompts. We have done many researches in the past with students, and we have seen that as far as numbers and terminology, the quality improves if you learn to work with it. So yes, it will be something that will be available, that is already more or less available, and then it's interpreter choice to see I need it or not. When I was an interpreter, I didn't like very much my booth mate to help me too much with things, because I was, at least in my opinion, able to wait a couple of seconds and remember the number I said. But another person would love to have the booth mate to jot down the number. So it's very individual question, and the technology will be there, not imposed on you. You have to use it, but it's an opportunity. If it's something for you, use it. If it's not for you, don't use it.
Yes, I would have to say, I would have to recommend our colleagues that if it is unavoidable, as it sounds that it will be, what better way to face this head on than to start experimenting and using these tools right now? And in relation to this, I would like to quickly announce that the kind people of Interpret Bank, the platform for glossary management that is much more than that, which was created by Dr. Fantinuoli, has very kindly allowed a discount, a 20% discount to members of the CMLTI. We will have a special code for our members. And incidentally, our membership during this week will also have a 20% discount. So maybe downloading this platform, Interpret Bank, would be a very nice way to get familiarized with these new technologies, these new functionalities that in the meantime can be very helpful to us in our booth, in our practice. So that would be my tip. Is there anything else, one last thing, Dr. Fantinoli, that you would like to share?
Yes, maybe the last thought is myself as a former interpreter, as a head of innovation or doing my research in this area, I'm very positive for the future. But it is in my heart that the interpreting community starts to be open, not to accept everything, but to understand what's happening. Knowledge is the key to success. So start looking with a critical eye, try things out, say, no, I don't like this, but you have to know what's happening to be prepared for the present and for the future. That's all I have to say. I can say.
What a great way to finish this conversation. Thank you very much again, Dr.
Thank you
Claudio
for the
Fantinoli.
invitation.
And see you maybe next year in the 2021 Translation Week.
It would be a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.